Good morning, Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem to our viewers on Torah Anytime. I want to dedicate the shir to the Hatzlacha of Ben Zion Ben Dosa, him and his family. And as we've been doing for the last several weeks, for the Hatzlacha of our soldiers fighting. Emetz Hashem, the hostages will be brought back, and the wounded will be healed. All of them with their families should only know Chaim, Simcha, and Shalom. Amen. In our Pasha we find the word Toldos. Toldos appears twice. First it appears about Yitzhak, then it appears about Yishmael. Ele Toldos Yishmael. Every time we see this word Toldos, it appears differently. Ele Toldos Yishmael, Taf, Lamed, Daled, Taf. Who's missing?
Vav.
There's no Vavs. It's completely Ksiv Chaser. No Vavs. We would write it Taf Vav, Lamed Daled, Vav Taf. But there's no Vavs around. The beginning of the Pasha, Ele Toldos Yitzchak, Taf Vav, Lamed Daled Taf. Vav, one Vav is there, but the other is not. Pasha's Taf Vav Lamed Daled Taf. The ending Vav is not there. The one at the beginning of the word is. When it comes to Esav, Pasha's Vayishlach, Ve'ele Toldos Esav, Taf, Lamed, Daled, Vav, Taf. Now Vav suddenly appears at the end of the word, but suddenly it became absent in the beginning of the word. What's going on? Such inconsistency. If you want to write Toldos with a Vav, so always write it with a Vav. If you don't want, take all the Vavs out. If you want to keep it in one way with one Vav, fine. But what's this inconsistency? So maybe, Yishmael, there's nothing good coming out of him. Just look around, listen to the news. Nothing good that comes out of Yishmael. He doesn't have a past, he doesn't have a future, and therefore it's devout of Vavim, alluding to no past, no future. What do I mean? Rabbeinu Achidah, in Choymas Anach, Pashas Toldos Oisei, writes a phenomenal thing, which was true back when he wrote it 200 and something years ago, but it's still true today. And the Chidah writes that we don't see converts coming from Yishmael. Look around. Go to the Batei Din that deal with conversions. You don't find Muslim converts. 1 in a million. Christian converts, you see a lot, all the time. This is what the Chidah writes was 200 years ago, and it's still relevant today. You do not see converts coming from Islam. Why is that? And the Chidah writes an amazing thing. Where did Yishmael grow up? And in what womb did he spend some time? In the womb of Hagar. There's no Kedusha there. Where did Esav, the father of all Christians, come from? He spent time in the holy womb of Rivka Imenu. There's Kedusha there. So there's some attachment to Kedusha by him, and all you need to do is to ignite that spark that connects with Kedusha, and he's like, whoa, Kedusha. And he feels that magnet, that attraction towards Kedusha. But Yishmael doesn't have it. And therefore you do not have converts coming from Yishmael. Maybe that's why Yishmael, the word Toldos, is without the Vavs, because there is no past. There's also no future. But there's many converts that come from Esav, Unkelus, Shmaya ve'Avtalion, and many throughout the generations. They're all coming from Esav. And therefore, Esav has no beginning. He himself was a Rasha, but it has an end. There is a future. So the Vav in Esav, Ele Toldos Esav, doesn't appear at the beginning because he's a Rasha. But it does appear at the end because there is hope and there is future for a person coming from an Esav. Well, what about Yitzchak Avinu? The Vav is there at the beginning of the word, but is not at the end of the word. Because Yitzchak, as we know, is Kadosh Mileida. But don't rely on that, says the Kodesh Baruch Hu to Yitzchak, to all of us. Don't rely on Zchus Avos. Don't rely on Yichus. Create your own Yichus. Create your own Zchus Avos. It's true. It's true that you have a past and Mitzvah Hashem you have a future, but you have to create your own future and not to rely on past generations. And therefore there is no Vav there at the end of the word, alluding to the Bchira HaChofshis that is in each and every one's hands. And therefore you find it's always missing something to tell us a hidden secret, but the only time we do find this word with the ksiv male, with two vavs. We find it twice in Torah. Perek Beis Pasuk Dalet in Bereshis. Ele toldos hashamayim ve'aretz behi baram. When a Kodesh Baruch Hu creates something, toldos is complete. Taf vav lamed dalet vav taf. Why? Because the Kodesh Baruch Hu does something, it's perfect, it's complete. So the word is perfect and complete. The other time we find it is Megillas Rus. Ele toldos paretz. Paretz ultimately will be the great-great-grandfather of Mashiach Tzidkenu. And then the world again will restore to perfect completion. And therefore the word Toldois, Taf Vav Lamed Dalet Vav Taf appears in B'Ksiv Male because again the world goes back to becoming perfect. So the word Toldos is perfect. Paretz, Ele Toldos Paretz. We learned the genealogy of Peretz, David HaMelech, ultimately Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Karov B'Yameinu.
And from Purim, where was it from Purim?
Megillas Rus. Megillas Rus. Megillas Rus, you want the pasuk?
The pasuk, what it says.
Ele Toldos Paretz, and now they give us the genealogy of Peretz. And we know David HaMelech is coming there, and Mashiach Tzidkenu. It's in Perek Dalet Pasuk Yud Ches in Megillas Rus.
What about Muhammad Ali?
What about him?
Was he a Muslim?
Why is he relevant to our discussion? Did he convert?
I think he did.
Through what, under what umbrella?
He converted to Muslim, he didn't convert to Judaism.
No.
Not Yiddishkeit as far as I know.
Okay.
I didn't see him in Me'am Loez.
No, it's the only Muslim I can think of that ever.
The pasuk says that Yitzchak Avinu says to the person standing in front of him, come close. I want to feel you, I want to touch you. Gashna ve'amushcha bni, I want to feel you because something is off, something is not right. Rashi explains what wasn't right. He keeps saying every 2 seconds, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. And Yitzchak says, that's off. En derech Esav liot Shem Shamayim shagur befiv. It's not the normal way that Esav speaks. He doesn't say Shem Hashem. The Ramban is bothered by this. He doesn't understand Rashi. Says the Ramban, Yitzchak thought Esav is a tzaddik. So why wouldn't Esav say Baruch Hashem just like a Yaakov? Why did he think he's a tzaddik if he doesn't say Shem Hashem? If he doesn't say Shem Hashem, obviously there's something very, very wrong. And therefore the Ramban says two perushim. His second perush, he says, I think it just has to do with the voice. It was different. He was expecting to hear Esav, but he hears a voice which is not exactly like Esav. He says, come a little closer. I want to make sure it's really you. Because he heard a voice not like Esav. Maybe he thought it's Yaakov, maybe it's someone else. It's not my regular Esav's voice.
So Esav would also say Baruch Hashem.
What's that?
Esav would
No, we're not talking about Baruch Hashem or not Baruch Hashem. We're talking about something which was off. But the Ramban says another perush. Look, you have to stretch your imagination to be melamed zchus. Yitzchak Avinu leads the way and tells us how. According to Rashi, that Yitzchak, if you heard that Esav is now saying Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. Normally he doesn't, and Rashi brings it from the Medrash. It's not an invention of Rashi. So why is it that Yitzchak thought that Esav is such a tzaddik? Lemaise he doesn't say Hashem's name ever. So why is he such a tzaddik? Tzaddikim usually say Baruch Hashem.
Trumot and Masrot he asked about, no?
No, but that is tzaddik. But what happens to Hashem's name? If he's asking such shalas of Tumas or Maisos, how come he's not saying every so often, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem? What happened? How are you doing? Good. That's good. Baruch Hashem. If Esav doesn't say Baruch Hashem, obviously there's something wrong.
It was a complete basis. He wanted to be careful with the saying.
That's what the Ramban says. Says the Ramban, Yitzchak said to himself, my Esav, he's such a tzaddik. He says to Yerushalayim, he's afraid. Once, maybe in 20 years, he's going to forget that he goes in unclean places, he goes in the field. He's a hunter. He goes in different places which you need to say Shem Hashem with purity of heart, with Yiras Shamayim. You can't just say Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. You have to have kavanas. Maybe my son Esav is a tzaddik. He's going to notice that he's doing other things and he does not have kavanah. So that's why he always doesn't say Shem Hashem, because Khalila maybe once he's going to say it without the proper kavanah.
And that's why he doesn't say it again.
That Yitzchak Avinu teaches us what it means to judge people favorably. The first Lev Yitzchak of Barditchev is Yitzchak Avinu. I think similar is a Chassam Sofer. There's a halacha.
What type of decision for the extreme? He's not doing mitzvot. He doesn't want to do it because maybe he will do without.
Yeah, I'll give you a proof. There's a halacha, unknown halacha. I think we mentioned it a few weeks ago. Here, I'm not sure. When one sneezes, what is he supposed, the person who heard him sneeze, what is he supposed to respond with? Nope. If you hear me sneeze now, what are you supposed to say? A blessing. Gesundheit. Labiyut, whatever language you want to say it. Why? Why are you blessing me with good life because I sneezed? What's the connection?
People used to die.
People used to die. The Mishnah Berurah brings us. Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Siman Reish Lamed, Seif Kotten Vav, Mishnah Berurah brings it. He also brings something else for the Magen Avraham. When I hear you sneeze, I'm supposed to say, give you a bracha, right? Gesundheit, Lebriyut, I bless you. You're supposed to respond with something. What are you supposed to say?
Thank you.
Most people say thank you, but that's not what the Magen Avraham says, quoted by the Mishnah Berurah. You're supposed to say, Baruch Tihiyeh. Why? You just blessed me. I'm going to bless you in response. You just gave me a bracha. I should have a good life, a healthy one. You should be blessed as well. That's the halacha. But then the Magen Avraham adds something else. You should say Baruch Tihiyeh, and right after that, since you just gave your friend a bracha, you should say Lishuas Hakivisi Hashem. Look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I also need salvation. He's trying to apply here what the Gemara says in Baba Kama Tzadi Beis Amud Aleph. If you daven for your friend, but you also need salvation, you will be answered first. So even though you have no kavana for your friend, it's just an auto reflex, it's an autopilot type of response. You should be blessed. You should be blessed as well. Hey, but wait a second. I just gave a bracha to someone. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what about me? Don't forget about me. Says the Chassam Sofer, this is a pasuk. Lishuasra kivisi Hashem. It's only 3 words. Why, those who do say this, why don't we say it with Shem Hashem? What's the problem to say Shem Hashem? It's 3 words. You're not going to get confused. Don't worry. Lishuasra kivisi Hashem. We all know it by heart. Says the Chassam Sofer, the reason the minhag is to say it, but without Hashem's name, because maybe you're going to hear your friend sneezing when you're in the bathroom, when you're in the bathhouse, when you can't say Hashem's name. So Mimele, even though 90% of the time you hear him sneeze not in the bathroom, Mimele already became a minhag that we say it, but without Hashem's name. I think it's similar to what Yitzchak Avinu was judging favorably Esav. He says, he probably doesn't want to mention Hashem's name in a not such a clean place where sometimes he is found, or without the proper kavanah. Mimele is very careful, and that's why he doesn't say Hashem's name. Reb Levi Yitzchak Mibaditchev in his original form as Yitzchak Avinu.
There used to be people, why don't you wear a kippah? Because, well, I'm worried I'm going to, forget to say, well, I'm worried I'll be somewhere, I'll say, think I'll look at something. So people would say, I don't wear a kippah because I'm worried I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to say something, someone's going to see me doing something or saying something, there'll be a chilul Hashem. And that's why they wouldn't wear a kippah.
There's a very simple solution to that. Make sure you don't go to those places.
Right.
Make sure you don't say those places, and don't wear your kippah. Don't wear your kippah. When my kids were little, if one of them, if the kippah fell, I said, "Oh, your crown fell. It's not a kippah; it's a crown. Who wouldn't want to wear a crown? If you view it as your connection to Ribono Shel Olam, Melech Malchei Amlochim, and you are a prince, you wouldn't walk around with a crown. Who wouldn't walk around with a crown? So it's not a kippah. Start querying.
My friend, I said, what are you talking about? Where are you going that you think you're going to?
Good.
You can say a pasuk in the bathroom, you show up activity Hashem while you're in the bathroom.
No. But once you're going to get used to not saying it, automatically you're going to think, ooh, it's a pasuk. Otherwise you would say it with Hashem's name always. And then maybe you would even say it in a not clean place.
Is there a difference between Ashkenazim and Sephardim as far as kippot are concerned? Because I understand Sephardim, some of them hold you only need like a kippah when you're squares or rockers, but when you're out in the street, there's no need to wear them. Is that correct?
Not today, no. From the time of the Taz, it became already an obligating minhag. It really stems from a minhag. There's no source to obligate us to put a kippah unless you're a Talmid Chacham. The Gemara discussed Talmid Chachamim have the practice to cover their heads. So that's back in the time of the Gemara. But from the time of the Taz, we're talking hundreds of years ago, it became a common practice, and if one walks around without a kippah, he announces himself, I don't associate myself with that group. Shulchan Aruch at the beginning already brings it, one must wear it, and so much so that the right thing to do is not to walk for amos without a kippah. That includes in one's house. How much more so outside the house? There were a couple of merchants, two friends, at the time of Reb Chaim Volozhin. And they used to go once a year to the fair, buy the merchandise, come back to their town, sell it, and they would have parnasa for the entire year. And that's what happened one year. They went to the fair, they got all the goods, and they started traveling back to their town. But in the time of Reb Chaim Volozhin, Waze wasn't working so well. Yep, should know, Waze wasn't working always so well. So they got stuck on the way back, and they lost their way, they made the wrong turn, and they're walking and walking for days. They're traveling, and the food that they had, the drink that they had, they're running out of all supplies, and the mamish are starving. And they don't see anything kosher on the way. After a few days, finally, they get to this Jewish inn, and they go in and says, give us something to eat. Starving! Didn't eat something kosher in days. We had to drink, we need to eat. And the owner says to them, listen, I'm so sorry. I only have one meal left, and it's already ordered by someone else. He's going to pick it up tomorrow. I can't give it to you. He said, please, we're starving. We didn't eat in days. He says, but this is already ordered by someone else. He says, you know what? I can give it to you. $10,000. He says, $10,000? What is it? He says, a chicken and some potatoes. $10,000? Normally he charges $15. They were starving, and they said, okay, let's eat. He gave them the food. They ate it. It was delicious. And when they're finished, he says, where's the money? So they take out $15, and they say, here's the money. He says, whoa, 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 whoa. We said 10,000. They said, but it's worth 15. Here's $15. But you agreed $10,000, and that's the only reason I gave you the food. They said, listen, you're trying to take advantage of our predicament here. Not very nice. You're going to get $15, and that's it. They start arguing. They didn't know what to do. What do you do when you live in the time of Reb Chaim Volozhin? You go to Reb Chaim Volozhin to Paskin. They went to Reb Chaim Volozhin, and they told him, Yalamdeinu Rabbeinu, Adin Torah, do we have to pay $10,000 or not? They claimed that he's trying to exploit them. He's trying to take this unbelievable sum of money for something which is worth $15, and that's disgusting. And he said, listen, simple rule in economics, supply and demand. You want it, there is nothing else like it anywhere else that you can use. You need it, you have to pay. Supply and demand. Yelamdeinu Rabbeinu, Reb Chaim Volozhin has to paskin. Before he paskins, let's hear what you paskin. Aboisai, Dayani Mumchim. Do they have to pay or not?
What was the discussion? How did he come back to 15?
The normal price, and you see it on the chart over there, a meal, a lunch in this place is $15. He wants to charge them $10,000. Why? Because they're really hungry, and he doesn't have anything else. What's that?
The bechora for a plate of lentils. So that's, you can, it's the same case like this. Trade the nothing for something much more valuable. So it's not supply and demand. It's one can trick, so to speak, if the other one doesn't appreciate it.
I hear.
Isn't the laws of Oina apply here? That if
Do laws of Oina that you can charge more than up to 6 apply here as well? Do they apply always?
I'm asking.
Does it apply to real estate?
No.
Why?
Not the
Not be'kakaos, not be'avadim, not be'shtaros. Why?
There's no, the value is.
I want to live here. It's close to my job. Have sentimental value. I believe one day this will be, it's going to be the Nur Hamad Bet Shemesh out of this place. Ooh, it's going to explode. There could be reasons. You know, my great-grandfather used to live on this kalka. I'd like to live here. A person is willing sometimes to pay a ton of money, even for something right now it doesn't look. Says the merchant, says the owner, the inn's owner, you were walking now in, I don't know, in the desert. You're walking a few days without eating anything. You'd be willing to pay anything. This is the value. For you, this is the value. Maybe there's no one now. And there's also nothing else like it in the market. When do we say now? When you can go to another store and get it for the real price. There is no real store, and I'm the only store. So I set my prices. You know, to bring it here, the insurance and the delivery, it's a big deal. It's expensive. Any other rayos? Meshate ani becha. What does that mean? Yevamos, Kuf Vav Amud Aleph. The Gemara tells us a story. A guy is running away. Somehow he was able to get out of jail. He's running, and they're running after him, and they're chasing him. And he gets to the river, and there's a taxi boat there, and the guy is eating his lunch. So the guy says to him, please, take me to the other side. He says, sure, b'simcha rabba. In about an hour, when I finish my burekas and my coffee. He says, no, now. He says, in an hour from now. Slow down, I have to eat. No, now! Now, normally this guy charges $5. Everybody knows. It's $5 to go from one side of the river to the other. It's a 5-minute drive. So the guy says to listen, I'll give you $10,000. Do it now! The driver takes his lunch, throws it into the water, he says, hop on! They get to the other side, he says, what's the $10,000? Says the Gemara, he's allowed to say, Meshate ani becha. I was fooling you, and he gives him the $5, which is the normal charge for that fare. Meshate ani becha. This is Paskin and Shulchan Aruch. Choshen Mishpat Simen Reish Samech Dalet Seif Zayin Paskin LaHalacha. There was another Maisa there with Rav Papa. There was a lady, a very distinguished lady, and her husband died. She needed to have yibum or chalitza. Her brother-in-law, who's ready, willing, and able, wanted to do yibum. But it wasn't in her league. It wasn't shayach for him to get married to her, so she didn't want. But he wanted to get married to her. Papa went to this guy and said, listen, do chalitza, not yibum. It's not shayach for you. He says, no, I want yibum. Papa says, listen, if you listen to me and you do chalitza, I'll give you 200 zuz. 200 zuz, no problem, you did the chalitza. Right after the chalitza, he says, comes to Papa and says, no, where's the 200 zuz? 200 zuz. It's a year's salary. 200 zuz, where are they? He says, Meshate ani becha. You had to do this, you just did what you needed to do. You're not getting $1. So sometimes we apply this, I was fooling you to make sure that you do the right thing. So if you want $15, you'll get $15. You're not going to get $1 more than that. Reb Chaim Volozhin turned to this, it's a psak halacha, and he says to them, the halacha is you do not have to pay $10,000. You're going to pay only the lunch's cost, whatever it is, $15. The merchants were very happy. The owner of the inn wasn't so happy, and he says, Rebbe, Yelamdeinu Rabbeinu, where did you take this from? So he says to him, listen, do you know Gemara? He wanted to send him to this Gemara. Nope. Do you know Shulchan Aruch? He says, listen, I don't have time. I have an inn to run. Do you know Torah? He says, yeah, I do Shnai Mikvah Ve'echad Targum every week. He says, no, Parshas Toldot. What happened there, which you sent us to with Esav and Yaakov? Yaakov is preparing the meal. Esav comes in and says, oh, I'd like to have this soup. I'd like to have the soup. Sell me the Bechoira. And he does. Why can't Esav wake up afterwards and say, Meshate ani becha? He can claim Mekach Tos. Cancel the whole deal. But suddenly, for some reason, the Pasuk says, other than the soup that Esav wanted, Yaakov Avinu gave him lechem unezit adashim, gave him bread. And then he gave him the soup. Why'd you give him bread? Because he wanted to make sure. Esav came and said, listen, I'm about to die. I'm starving. I'm so tired. Give me now something to eat. Otherwise I'm going to die. If you try to take advantage when a person is in that situation, then later he can say, Mekach Taus. I wouldn't buy it for that, for selling you the Bechoira Chas V'Sholom. So Yaakov Avinu ensured this is not going to happen. He gave him the bread. Eat. Relax. Calm down. How are you feeling now? You feel better now? Here, now take the soup. Once he gave him the soup, after he already ate the bread, Esav can't claim, well, Mekach Taus. You see that if you wouldn't give him the bread, Esav will be able to claim Mekach Taus. What you did, he says to this innkeeper, is you gave them without giving the bread first. You gave them the food when they really needed it. And you charge them for $10,000, they can now come and claim Mekach Taus. You see from this Maaseh of Esav and Yaakov that in this case you cannot charge this exorbitant amount, and therefore $15, and you're going to get $1 more. Let's move on a little now to Inyana de Yoima, wartime shalos and answers. We all see the unbelievable chesed that's going on. People go and give food and clothing to people who are uprooted from their homes from the south, to the soldiers. Unbelievable chesed. There was a girl, we're going to call her Rachel, who baked a cake for her father. She is calling it a kibud av cake. She knows her father likes a certain cake, chocolate cake, and she made him this beautiful cake. It's ready at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Her father is coming back at 9 o'clock. And it just came out of the oven and it looks fantastic. As soon as she takes it out of the oven, her brother comes into the house and says, wow, that's a gorgeous cake. Let me take it. No. This is daddy's cake. This is a kibud av cake. He says to her, no, I want to take it. Where are you going? He says, I'm going down south to deliver food for the soldiers. I have a lot of other food and clothing. I want to take this as well. This is going to gladden their heart. It's called a Gmilus Chesed cake. She says to him, this has a different name. Its name is kibud av cake. It belongs to a mitzvah kibud av. I designated it for that mitzvah. He says, what's the difference? This is a mitzvah and this is a mitzvah. Gmilus Chesed is not a mitzvah in your eyes. It's just a big mitzvah. But this already has a name of kibud av cake. Can't switch it to a different mitzvah if you want. Wait half an hour, I'll bake another cake. You'll take that one down south. He says to her, no, I'll take this one. I like it. Make daddy a different cake. What's the difference? He's going to get a cake. He's not going to be missing anything. What's the difference? She says, but it has a name already. As if a kedusha. If the cake falls down, you don't have to kiss it. If it goes bad, you don't have to put it in gniza. But it has some kind of a kedusha attached to it because I made it for daddy. It's a kibud av cake. Since they didn't know what to do, they asked me to come here to Me'am Lois to find out, can you switch the name of the cake? Can you switch something which has some kind of a mitzvah associated with it, a name of a mitzvah attached to it? I said, this is going to be for my father. Can you switch it to a different mitzvah or not? What's that? Mitzvah bizayon. You were supposed to be my kibud av item, and now I'm demoting you from that position. I'm saying no longer. It's a bizayon. Maybe it gets some kind of a form of kedusha again, not kedusha for gniza purposes, but kedusha in that you are a cake of kibud av. How can I switch you now to a different type of mitzvah? Not that it's not a mitzvah. What you're doing a big mitzvah. But who says I can?
I don't know if it's correct. With Meila, we cannot use the korban for something else because it's ignited for.
Right?
This is not the korban.
It's not a korban. And can we learn to Meila to other areas in halacha? Meila has some unique character traits which we don't find in other areas of halacha.
Would the father be upset?
No, the father, it's not going to make a difference to the father because this is ready now at 4 p.m. He's only coming back at 9 p.m. We're not talking about a case that we're delaying the father who's waiting for the cake. When he's going to come back, he's going to have either this cake or a new one that she's going to make in half an hour. But I put on it the name, kibud av cake. I made it for kibud av.
If say this person who's going down south has to leave now, right? Otherwise you won't be able to get there. So the mitzvah is talui alecha chashav. So something that's...
First of all, who says I have to participate in your mitzvahs? We didn't have a contract. Go to the store and buy a new cake if you want. I don't have to participate. If I want to participate, tavo alaya bracha. But am I allowed to remove the name kibud av cake and put a different tag on it? This is a gmilus chesed cake. Who says I'm allowed to?
The question is, who gives the name of the cake?
I just did. When I was baking it, I was baking it with kavanos, with tikkunim, with yichudim. This is for the kibud av of my dear father. I love him dearly. HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked me, commanded me to honor him.
Does it call that?
Why not? I made it for a specific cause. Not sure if it's a muktzeh item now, huktzeh le soy, but maybe we just started the month of Kislev. Towards the end of the month, something happens, big thing, it's called Chanukah. Can't move the Chanukah for a different reason. Can't benefit from the light, but here I'm not benefiting from the cake, I'm just switching a name to a name. One mitzvah to another mitzvah. Is there any connection to Chanukah? Taf Reish Ayin Gimel or Isvav in the Shulchan Aruch. Mishnah Berurah there as well. The Sha'arei Tshuva in Orach Chaim Taf Reish Ayin Gimel Seif Kotan Aleph brings a Machloikes Shvus Yankov and Chacham Tzvi. There's a person who always lights with olive oil. He wants to do it the best way possible. He always does. First day, second, third. On the fourth night, he didn't have oil, but he had wicks from candy. He had candles, wax candles. So he takes the candles. You have to light. What can he do? And he takes the candles, and as he's about to put them in his menorah and to light, His friend runs over and says, I found olive oil for you. The most meshubach olive oil there is. Oh, yashikoyach, yashikoyach. He takes it, and now comes a Shvus Yankov and starts yelling at him. Don't take it. You, as if consecrated, you put the name Chanukah candles on the wax candles, even though they're not the same level as olive oil. It's the most mehuda way to light. It's mimicking what happened in Beis HaMikdash, but you already said these candles are going to be for the sake of the mitzvah. Machloikes the Shvus Yaakov, the Chacham Tzvi, and many participate in this machloikes. The Sdei Chemet talks about it. The Or Sameach, the Meshech Chochma, the Or Shulchan there, Safrish Ein Gimel, Seif Kotten Vav, and many others. Birkei Yosef. So the Maise, most Achronim say that if you just decided this will be for lighting, you can still take the olive oil and light with it. But if you put the candles in your menorah and you say Baruch Ata, even without saying Hashem's name, Baruch Ata, and now they brought you the oil, say to the oil, I'm sorry, we'll use it tomorrow, and stick with the wax candles. Why? Because you already said this is going to be for my Hanukkah candles. You see, you can't remove the name of a mitzvah from an item.
And was there such a thing as Malim B'Kodesh and Lomorim B'Kodesh? You Mila because there's a tremendous heater that's there.
So the priest came over there and say, it's a bizayon to the candles. Candles. When was the last time you saw candles being sad or being happy? An animate object. And yet, it's a bizayon to apply a name of a mitzvah to a candle, seemingly to our cake, and say, no, now I'm taking you, demoting you, I'm taking you off, you are no longer associated with this mitzvah. Even though it's a hidu mitzvah, it's not a cake for a cake. I'm elevating Ma'alin B'Kodesh, but I said Baruch Ata, I already said this is going to be for my candles. It's a bizayon. Another example, Shulchan Aruch Yoredea, Milchos Tzedakah, Simen Reish Nun Vav, Seif Koton, Seif Dalet in Shulchan Aruch. The Rema says, you took some money and you said this is going to be for a poor person, for Mr. Kohen, for the Aniyim in this town. Says the Rema, you cannot change this money and now instead of Mr. Kohen to give it to Mr. Levi. Instead of giving it to the Aniyim in this town, give it to a different town. Even to change it to Talmud Torah. Although Talmud Torah keneged kulam, the greatest mitzvah we have, but once you said verbally, this is going to be for this cause, for Mr. Kohen, you cannot change it. You see from here that when you designate something and you say you're going to be for a specific mitzvah, you can't change it. But I think these rayos are no good. Why? By the Hanukkah candles, you're telling the wax candles, sorry, there's somebody better than you. Go to the side. And what's going to happen with us? They tell you. And you said, nothing. You're going to sit there and look with envy at the olive oil which is going to be used for a mitzvah. You're demoting them and you don't give them a replacement, a tafkid. They just reject it from the mitzvah. Same thing with a tzedakah. When you change what it was supposed to go to, the other guy, Mr. Kohen, the original poor guy, is not going to get anything. But here, nobody's going to miss anything. I'm going to give my father the cake, and I'm going to give the soldiers down there another cake. Who told me this? Yaakov Avinu. Behind the scenes. How does Kenim ala Torah, that's a perush of Baalei HaTosfos, and they say, what exactly happened there when Esav came back home? Esav was exhausted and he looks at this soup and he says, wow, that's a hearty soup. I want the soup. And Yaakov Avinu says, no, that's a kibudav soup. Sorry, I'm not giving it to you. If you want, wait 5 minutes, I'll make you another bowl. And Esav says, look at the bowl and says, I want this bowl. And Yaakov Avinu says, you're not going to get this bowl, this is for daddy. This is a kibudav bowl of soup, I'll make you another one. Unless, if you're willing to sell me your bechoira, I can switch this mitzvah to a different mitzvah. What's the difference if I give this bowl of soup to daddy or if I give this bowl of soup to you and I get a mitzvah in return, I'm getting the bechoira? I'll be able to serve in Beis HaMikdash, me and my descendants forever and ever. That I'm willing to do. And if not, wait here, I'll make for you another bowl of soup. And Esav said to him, you know what? I don't really care about the bechoira and I want this bowl looks amazing. I'll take this and you want the bechoira? Fine, I'll sell it to you. I think we can learn from Yaakov Avinu, his language is, Liknot mitzvah, to buy a mitzvah, mutar liten ka'aras avi shehi shel mitzvah. I can give you the bowl of soup of my father, which is also a mitzvah. I can switch a mitzvah for a mitzvah. So even though it's before Matan Torah, I think Yaakov Avinu teaches us a concept here. If it's a mitzvah for a mitzvah, it's just switching, there is no problem. In our case, it shouldn't be a problem and she can give the cake to her brother. He's going to go down south, give it to the soldiers, and she's going to make another cake, give it to her father. Her father doesn't have to wait. We're switching a mitzvah for a mitzvah. Who's our teacher? Yaakov Avinu. Riddle for the week. Besuel was a Rasha Merusha. Everybody agrees? Rasha. Is there still Besuel Ha'arami in our midst? I'm not talking about a Rasha like Besuel. Hamisha Besuel. Besuel Ha'arami, who is really Haramai, same letters as a Ramai, villain. Is there still a Besuel among us?
Plenty.
Not people who behave like a Besuel. That, no shortage.
Okay.
Not in Am Yisrael, of course.
This one exactly?
A Besuel Ha'arami. Bayas. Besuel Haramai. You familiar with one?
No, I'm asking.
I'm also asking. Where is the Besuel Haramai? Here in this room. In this Makom Kodosh. Don't look around looking for someone to point fingers to. Zoyar HaKodosh in Bereshis. Kuf Lamed Zayin, Parshas Toldot. Achidish. There's one bone in our body called the loose bone. Has another name? Naskoi. This bone is where Tchias HaMesim starts from. The Zohar HaKodesh calls it Besuel Haramai. Why? What's the connection that this bone, some say it's in the bottom of the spine, some say it's actually in the neck. Why is it going to be called Besuel Haramai? The Zohar explains. All the bones get their sustenance from wherever you eat throughout the week, except for this bone. It gets its sustenance from Melave Malka's meal, and therefore it wasn't affected like all the other bones that decay because of the sin of Adam Arishon on Friday. So as if it's fooling all the other bones, so it's called Besuel Haramai. So in each and every one of us there is a little Besuel Haramai, not in our Chas v'Shalom, our behavior, Chas v'Shalom, just according to the Zohar, this bone called Besuel Haramai. Who is mentioned in our Pasha? Told us. Served as a Kohen Gadol. I'm not talking about Avraham Avinu. I'm not talking about Yaakov Avinu. Someone else who served as a Kohen Gadol in Parshas Toldot. Can it be? Not everybody together? Can't hear when you're yelling at me? One by one. Aboisai, a Kohen Gadol in our Pasha? Not Avraham Avinu, not Yaakov Avinu. They were. They were. Avraham Avinu has the status of a Kohen Gadol. Yitzchok has a status of a Kohen Gadol, but there's someone else. A tremendous chiddush in Yerushalmi in Megillah Daf Yudaled Amud Aleph. Esav. Big Day HaChamudos. What is Big Day HaChamudos? HaChamudos says, the Yerushalmi, Shehaya Meshamesh Bekehuna Gedola. These are the special garments of the Kohen Gadol, because after all, Esav is a Bechor. That is what the Yerushalmi says. That is the answer to our question. And now, we go to another Shaila, Inyan Deyoima. You know, before the Israeli soldiers go in and conquer Gaza, they send flyers and they announce, get out, evacuate, we're coming. Whoever doesn't evacuate will assume he's a terrorist and we will kill him. So a lot of people flee from their homes. Some people can't because the Hamas doesn't let them. But people run away, in essence making their house hefker. They're running away. The Israeli army comes, conquers, and occupies these homes. The soldiers are asking, can we take everything that we see? Nice computer over there, a laptop, see some jewelry, maybe I'll take the fridge. A lot of different things I would like to have. I wasn't home for a few weeks. As a soldier, I want to give my wife a gift, a nice ring from Gaza. Can the soldiers take their belongings? Because once they left, in essence, the whole place is hefker. If it's hefker, whoever takes it.
They're going to come back.
What's that?
They're going to come back.
Yeah, so ultimately, they will come back, and Israeli army says to them, for the time being, you have to leave. When we will tell you when it's safe to come back, and then you can come back. But once they leave, they're saying, hefker. Aren't there misyaesh, big time, on all their belongings, on their homes and all belongings? Who knows if the house is even going to be standing there when they come back? They don't know. Many homes are not there anymore. Can the soldiers take whatever they feel like to themselves?
What's the deal with the Milchamas Mitzvah? As in the Milchamas Mitzvah, soldiers are allowed to take plunder. I think we learned from Avraham Avinu, don't we? When he sent Eliezer and the war against the 4 kings, and he said to divide up the plunder. He didn't want to take it. He said give it to the men that accompanied him. So from that maybe we can learn you are allowed to take it in Malacca.
Who gave him? A king gave it to him?
Yeah, the king, yeah.
But we're asking, can I take it without getting it from a king? I want to go into the store and decide, since the owner ran away, this is mine.
This is not like a war between 2 countries. This is a war between us and Hamas. So we're not fighting the civilian.
But they're running away, making their house hefker.
That's not their fault. They have
Not
to
their
run
fault.
away.
Not their fault. But aren't they misyayish knowing the soldiers are going to come into their homes? And who knows if they'll ever be able to come back?
It's taking advantage of this.
Can I?
No.
This is wartime. In war, things are
If
different.
it's a war between 2 countries, then it's a normal situation. You declared war on us as a country, right? Now if you fail, then you deserve the consequences. Here, it wasn't a war between 2 countries, it was a war between us and the Hamas.
You've told them to leave for Pikuach Nefesh. So just because they run away for
But
Pikuach
it's not
Nefesh, doesn't mean
that they were dictating.
But when they ran away, leaving their homes, knowing I'm going to come in and occupy it, not knowing how long this will take, maybe a month, maybe 6 years, maybe when they come back there is no house, didn't they give up ownership of everything they own? Weren't they misyayish of the house and all its belongings?
I think they would have to go through the generals. Like the generals collect everything, and then, what people get, they split it up.
Fine, so we'll take the individual soldier, we'll tell him, take it, and give it to the commander, and he'll divide it. But can we take it, Bichlal?
Can we say on this line, we take not for ourselves. The war costs a lot of money because of what they're doing.
We take it and bring it back to the government.
So to get back to the government to pay for all the military things, so take all the gold and everything, so at least maybe partially pays for all the tanks and the other things.
And what if there's an item that the government is not interested in and doesn't have a resellable value, but I want it for my house? Can I take something which is not mine, but now maybe it is mine because it's hefker? I can be the new owner.
How about the war with Midian when they brought back all what they took from there? Moshe Rabbeinu didn't tell them nothing but that. He told them about
So that's similar to what he's saying. That's 2 countries fighting each other and I conquer and everything is mine. But this is not exactly the same. Ultimately, I told them, when it's safe, I'll tell you when you can come back. I don't know what they're coming back to. Don't know if there's going to be a house. But did they give up ownership and be misyayish from all their belongings when they ran away? No. You have a raya? It's monetary laws.
You to save your life. You got
True.
property, you got lots of property there, lots of things there.
If I know my neighbor ran away to save his life to South Africa and he's not coming back, so I'll just keep looking at his belongings and never touch them? Didn't he make it hefker?
When Lot left Sidon, he never saw that he went back to collect what he had in the house. He probably had a bunch of things.
Maybe it was fighting.
Let's look in Parshas Vayishlach, coming up in 2 weeks. The brothers go into Shechem. What do they do there? Kill everyone. What else?
They destroy possessions.
They take their possessions. Everything? Everything they felt like. The laptops, the computers, the cars, they took them all. Who gave them permission? Isn't that the same? You go in for a few minutes, you occupy the place. Of course, you put flyers ahead of time. You go in, you conquer, you take their possessions, and you come back. Isn't that the same case? Who gave them permission? Says the Or HaChaim HaKodesh, you know why they did it? The Pasuk gave them permission. Because the Pasuk says, you know why we're doing it? Asher timu esachoisam. They defiled their sister. Says the Or HaChaim HaKodesh, they did it because of Busha. They have to compensate Yaakov Avinu and his family. The Rambam says it's not just the father that gets the compensation, it's the whole family. And when it comes to Dinei Boshet, it has to do with the stature, the level of the person who is misbayish and the person who is mivayish. And you don't have anyone greater or more distinguished than Yaakov Avinu. And the language of the Orcham HaKodesh doesn't make a difference how much belongings they have. It's still not going to be half of the value that you really have to pay Yaakov Avinu for what you did. So they did it only because of boishes. Since in our case we don't have an element of boishes, it doesn't apply, and the soldiers will not be allowed to take anything. And like you said, they're only running away for their life, they're coming back. And lichoira, if we can be medayik from this Orcham HaKodesh, it applies only when there's dinei boishes, compensation.
Wasn't it in Bosh's what they did, like cutting off babies' heads and things like that? It was just like the Jewish people did.
That's to a specific family. That this soldier has no connection to that person. It's not shaykh in the bushes.
I mean, it's not one family.
Nah.
Can they take and compensate for the expenses of the war as a government thing? Or not?
That will take from Hamas itself. I understand the top guys there have plenty that can supply us almost for the entire war. Financial burden of this cause.
They're in Qatar.
What's that?
They're in Qatar.
Don't worry, we're going to get there too. Since we're in war, there's a Baal Tshuva. There was a Baal Tshuva who invited his friends. His friends are still not in the Pasha. He invited them to have a nice evening, to talk to them a little, to give them chizuk, try and influence them. So the guys are sitting in the living room and he's in the kitchen and he served them some watermelon. Then he goes back to the kitchen to bring them more food, beverages. And he hears an argument. His friends who are very, very secular, and they're saying, listen, we're in his house. He gave us something to eat. He probably wants us to say a blessing. Let's say a blessing. So they said, but what do you say for a watermelon? And one guy says, oh, it's Boire Priya Adama. No, it's not Boire Priya Adama. He says, yeah. I wouldn't want to walk under a tree that watermelon grows on. Of course it's Adama, it's on the ground. He says, no, it's like a bush. I think it's Boire Priya Etz. And they're arguing, which one says something else. Baruch Hashem, they didn't say Boire Priya Geffen. But one of the guys said, guys, it's Shehakol Niyah B'Dvaroy, I'm telling you. And he was so certain, confident, they said, why do you say that? I said, I'll tell you why. I was in the army back in the Yom Kippur War. And at one point, we were surrounded by Egyptian tanks, and it looked really, really bad. And the commander didn't know what to do. And he called on the radio, we were a bunch of tanks, and he called and he said, does anyone here know any prayer? Anything to say to Hashem, even though we were all secular? But he said, listen, it's our final resort. Maybe something. Anyone knows? And nobody knew. Except one guy. He said, yes. He went back on the radio and said, I know. There's a blessing every time I visit my grandfather and he gives me chocolate. He says, you should say, Baruch atah Hashem she'akol niyah b'dvaro. Let's all say it. And the commander says, we don't know it. You say it and we'll repeat after you. And we all did. The guy said, Baruch atah Hashem she'akol niyah b'dvaro, and we all did. And right after that, we shot an Egyptian tank and it worked. It blew up. We did it to the same tank right next to it and it blew up again. It was unbelievable. And the Egyptian soldiers felt something is going on here. Suddenly the Israelis are attacking back. They were afraid, can't be explained. They turned around and they ran away. So this guy says to all his friends, listen, if Shehakol Niyah B'Dvaro is so powerful, it works in an Egyptian tank, don't you think it can work for a little piece of a watermelon? Let's go back to our questions and answers. There's a guy who volunteers for Hatzalah. He does tremendous work. But last month, suddenly, he works for someone else. Every 5 minutes, he has to get out of his job and go because he volunteers. Every 5 minutes, there was an alarm, a siren. There was something going on. He got a call, come now, every 5 minutes. So his boss says to him, listen, you are a tzaddik. But do me a favor, be a tzaddik on somebody else's account, not on mine. I want to fire you. I really think you're a tzaddik. You're doing an unbelievable thing for Klal Yisrael. But I don't have to suffer. I hired you and I'm paying you to work for me. Under normal conditions, once a week you get a call, once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks, sometimes even a month passes by and you don't get a call. But now, every 5 minutes, I'm suffering. Why do I have to lose my parnasa? Because you're a tzaddik. You should be a tzaddik on your own account and not on somebody else's account. I want to fire you. Can he fire him or not?
Can the man make up the time, for example?
What's that?
If the man is away, it works out 3 calls a day. Each call takes 50 minutes. So he's away from his work 45 minutes. He's supposed to finish his job at 6. He'll stay on until 6:45 to make up his hours.
Unfortunately, last month, even up to 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it wasn't 3 times 15 minutes. It was every 5 minutes for 25 minutes. Every 5 minutes throughout the day. It was unbelievable what's going on there. He says, you're not working. Why am I paying you? And again, you're a tzaddik. I have no claim of what you're doing. You're doing great. But do it on somebody else's expense.
The contract accepted that he was doing for Hatzalah or not?
Did I know when I hired you that every 5 minutes you're going to run away from the job? Every 5 minutes? Normal Hatzalah people have a call once in, I don't know what the statistics is here, once in 2 weeks, for 5 minutes. Fine, I can live with that. I also want to have a chilek in doing mitzvahs. But to what point?
So he's breaking the contract of the employment.
Who is breaking the contract?
The Hatzalah guy, because he's not working as
Good.
he was hired for working.
So we want to fire him.
Yeah.
Anyone has a little more rachamim? A little? Just a little? Just a little, not more. Not a lot.
He's doing this Hatzalah thing. This is Hatzalah. This is what Hatzalah means.
It's like this country.
But did I hire you thinking that every 5 minutes, would I hire you if I knew every 5 minutes you're going to be away? Why am I paying?
It's like miluim. It's like miluim. You hire in this country people, and they go.
Every employee knows that there's such a thing called miluim, and once a year, a soldier will be taken for a few weeks.
Okay, but now they're taken for 6 weeks, and they're not coming back, and we don't know when they're coming back.
So the government
fired.
So the government steps in, and the government pays the employer. And there's also such a thing the government introduces called chalat, chufsha lelo tashlum. You're free to go, but I can't pay you. But this is something the government imposes. This is a volunteer job. Hatzalah is volunteer. He's a volunteer. He's a tzaddik. Nobody hired him to become part of Hatzalah. He's a volunteer. You want to be a volunteer on your own time, not on mine.
So don't hire him. Hire someone else.
But I already did.
No, I'm saying you knew that he's part of Hatzalah.
Right.
So you hired him on the impression, but you don't know when there's going to be so you can't tell him when there's going to be an emergency and when there's not. So you have to just accept the consequences because you hired him on that pretext.
You have a raya? You want a paskin? Dine mamonos without a raya. That's a chiddush in itself. We see that Chazal made special takanos to help Klal Yisrael. Even though it's not the din, they changed the din. For example, are you allowed to work on Shabbos? To receive money for working on Shabbos? Nope. The midwife is allowed. Because if they're going to tell me, listen, you have to work, but you're not going to be rewarded, who's going to want to be a midwife? And we need midwives. Similarly, in Eruvin Daf Mem Daled Amud Beis we learn, Kol hayotzim lehatzil choizrim limkoima. The soldier is allowed to come back carrying his weapon at the end of the war. Carrying your weapon? Oh. That's why a doctor is allowed to come back after he goes and saves a life, because otherwise he'll say, what? I have to get stuck now in a different town? I'm not going next week. Next week, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sleep and I'm disconnecting my phone. Oh, I didn't hear the phone. Oh, I'm so sorry. Why would I want to be a doctor if I get stuck every Shabbos? Kol hayotzim lehatzil choizrim limkoima. They're allowed to come back. What's that? True. Maseret Sanhedrin Daf Ayin Daled Amud Aleph we learn. Reuven sees Shimon running after Levi to kill him. What's the name of Shimon? Roidef, the pursuer. Reuven runs after him, and on his way he jumped in somebody's car and broke the glass, and he did this, and he broke a few other things in somebody's fence, and Baruch Hashem, he was able to save Levi from Shimon the pursuer. Does he have to pay? Doesn't have to pay. But he's damaged, and adamuad le'olam. Why doesn't he have to pay? Chazal say, because next time, if we'll tell him, yes, you have to pay, he's going to say, well, I'm so sorry, I didn't see anything. Let somebody else be involved. Why do I have to pay? Why do I want to save people if afterwards they're going to charge me with the bill? So Chazal say, you know what? Save people, break things if you want on the way, and you don't have to pay.
You could say, well,
a doctor that unintentionally damaged his patient, he is patu, even though Adam muad le'olam, and he really should be paying. Chazal say you're exempt. Because if you're not going to tell him he's exempt, who's going to want to be a doctor? And that's a Shulchan Aruch Paskins L'Halacha. Yoredei Siman Shin Lamed Vav.
All these laws like you have in England, America, where it comes to a doctor for malpractice, it's not in accordance with Halacha.
Once you have today the insurance that every doctor takes, it's a different story. But when the doctor didn't have insurance in yesteryears, you can't charge him with what he did if he did it unintentionally. If he did it with intention, oh, he's going to pay. We're going to remove him from his position and he's going to have to pay. But if it's b'shoige, nobody's going to want to be a doctor.
Mother, the ambulances, they charge, right? So some people say, I don't want to take the ambulance because it's going to charge me 800 shekels to use your ambulance.
Right. So we spoke about it last week. 2 weeks ago, last week, somebody's not feeling well and we called the ambulance to come and take him, and then ultimately he's fine. He's going to say, you guys have to pay. We said, they don't have to pay. For the same reason. Why would we step in and help other people if ultimately we're going to be charged? He's going to have to pay. Based on these ideas, we should say, there's room to say the Hatzalah guy is right. This Shaila went to Rabbi Yoshiv. Not last month, but it's the same Shaila from previous rounds 15, 20 years ago. And Rabbi Yoshiv said, while this is happening, you have a contract. You hired him for a year. You can't fire him. Because just like he is helping, you have to be helping. It's just you don't know. You're not a trained professional. You're not a Hatzalah member. You don't know how to do it. But really, it's incumbent on all of us. All of us should be helping. Klal Yisrael. But once the contract is over, you don't have to rehire him. You don't have to hire a person who potentially can leave every 5 minutes because he's such a tzaddik. He can be a tzaddik on somebody else's account. But once you already have him in a contract, he is hired, you can't fire him. Because just like it's his obligation to save, because he is a Hatzalah member, it's your obligation. It's just that you don't know how to do it. And that's the reason we pay doctors. Why do we pay doctors? Why do we pay doctors? Don't doctors have the obligation to help? Of course they do, right? Where do we learn that doctors have the obligation to help people? Who told us that the doctor has to help when he sees a patient? Many people want to say it's from Verapo, Yerape. He shall surely heal. Only the Rosh says like this. But the Gemara, according to most understanding, is this is a permission for the doctor to heal, because otherwise we would say, who gave you the right to intervene? HaKadosh Baruch Hu made him sick. It's probably because he sinned. Let him do tshuva. Why are you jumping in? But no, the Torah says, Verapo Yerape, you have permission to heal. So this is not where we learn the obligation to heal. This is the permission. In Sanhedrin Ayin Daled, the Gemara learns that a doctor has the obligation to heal a person because of the mitzvah called Hashavas Aveda. If you must give back an item which is worth $5, he lost his pen, you have to give it back to him. How much more so you have to restore him, his body, to health. That's where we learn the obligation. Who's supposed to do this? Everyone. But not everyone is a qualified doctor. So the doctor, in essence, is working on our behalf. It's the same idea over here. So why do we pay the doctor? We pay him not for the mitzvah itself. When you do Hashavas Aveda, I don't pay you for the mitzvah. When you put on tefillin this morning, did I pay you for putting on tefillin? I don't pay you for mitzvahs. I pay the doctor for all those years that he spent in medical school, for his great wisdom, for the fact that he's willing to sign his signature on the treatment or on the prescription. If something goes wrong, he will be sued for that, not for the actual treatment itself. Because the actual treatment, all of us are supposed to be doing it. It's just that we don't know. And there is no obligation for a person to go and learn to be a doctor, but he did. And therefore, since he is working on our behalf, this Hatzalah member, you can't fire him because you are supposed to be doing the same. But you don't have to rehire him when the contract is over.
Most contracts don't have an expiration date.
Many contracts do. You are here for a year, you are here for 3 years, you're here for up to 6 years. It's a halachic problem if you sign a contract for more than 6 years, by the way, according to more than 3 years.
Because usually if someone is fair the contract, then they can,
If somebody breached the contract, yes, but he didn't breach a contract. It didn't say in the contract you're not allowed to go every time Hatzalah calls you. I wasn't aware of this. It's going to be so extreme.
So if let's assume there is no end on contract. I've seen contracts without any end. So what's the type of obligation? If there's no end of the contract, you cannot fire him?
L'choira, no. Unless, if there's no contract, you can fire him just because there's no contract.
No, but if there is one that doesn't say an expiration date.
In case like this, we have to go to Beis Din and find out what the minhag ha-medina is. Hakol keminhag ha-medina. If the minhag is that I can fire you when I don't like you, because we don't have a contract, I don't want to hire you anymore, then I can. If the minhag is no, you have a sort of chazaka in your tafkid, so then I can't.
A contract with unlimited with time, not limited, right?
What's that, I'm sorry?
A contract with it's not limited with time.
Right, that's what he's asking. Hakol keminhag ha-medina. If the minhag is I'm allowed to fire you,
because there's no limit, there's no contract.
Same idea.
Contract.
Same idea. But if you have a contract without time, you have a different problem, a halachic problem.
What's the problem?
Because a Yid cannot work for more than 6 years straight for the same employer under one contract. We learn it from Eved Ivri. Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat, Rema brings us, it's a problem. According to some, you can be hired in a contract for more than 3 years. And every 3 years, you open up the contract and do it again. 6 years is the most. It depends for what job. It's a whole big to do. Maybe Imit Hashem one day we'll speak about it. Maybe Parshas Behal.
When the contract expires, could the employer make a deny with him? Okay, I know you're in Chatzala, but from now on, if once you're in the contract, I want you to turn off your visa for 3 days out of the 5 that you're working for me.
Only if Atzala agrees to that.
That's right.
If he goes to Atzala and he says, listen, I'm going to be available at these and these days, and that's his, I don't want to say contract, that's his agreement with Atzala, then it's fine. If not, when he volunteered for Atzala, and he had a certain agreement with them, and he came to you saying, I volunteered for Atzala, and there was no limitations to that, you can't change it right now. Maybe he's the only guy in town. We need him. So he can't just turn off his radio. Abba Yisai, you ready for one more? Inyana de Yoima. A guy is standing in Kupat Cholim. He's sitting and waiting for the doctor. Other people there as well. Suddenly, somebody comes through the door and he looks suspicious. Something's sticking out of his shirt and it doesn't look good. I think it's a gun. I think it's a bomb. So the guy runs over to him, says, take off your jacket, take off your shirt. I want to see what you have there. I want to see what you have there. And he's nervous. The guy says, get out of here, Michigan. Get out of here. And there's another guy who comes and says, I don't like it. I don't like it. What do you have there? Take your shirt off. I want to see what you have there. And the guy says, you guys are crazy. Leave me alone. And he pushes them away. And the people are so nervous and say, I want to see what you have under your shirt. And the guy says, you guys, you better leave me alone. You guys are crazy. And the first guy was so nervous and panicking. He punched him in the nose. The guy fell down. He ripped his shirt and it's a wallet. It's a wallet. The guy is so upset. Look what you did to me. You know it's a Giorgio Armani shirt? You know it's a $200 shirt? You have to pay me? By the way, you broke my nose. I'm not talking about that now, but let's talk about the shirt. Does he have to pay $200, whatever the value of the shirt is, to the guy that he ripped his shirt? Abu Yisai, Dayani Mumchim, how do you say?
Surely if there's a panic, they think he's got a weapon. Okay, so they're not just joking, so he should really say it's not, it's a wallet, it's not a weapon.
Exactly.
So tomorrow, when I see you in the street, and I don't like what I see, take off your pants, I think you have a gun. You're going to have to take off your pants because I said so? Who am I? And I'm going to do this to you every single day. One day is going to be your pants, the following day is going to be your shirt, then your hat, then your glasses. I don't like the way you dress. You are scaring me. And the following day I'm going to do it to your to the neighbor. Everybody, I'm going to come to the shul, I'm going to say to the rabbi, Rabbi, take your pants off. He has to listen to me. Who am I? Am I the guard here? I'm just a guy sitting for the night waiting for the doctor. Could you imagine if we start telling people you have to take your clothes off? Why? Because I'm afraid. So take I don't know, take a volume, take something and calm yourself down.
Can't we learn from that famous Gemara, that's very strange Gemara, where one Amoraim saw a lady wearing a red garment and he ripped off the garment from her and
he paid her. How much did he pay her?
He had to pay
400 zuz.
Yeah,
what's your name? Masan. Masan is 200. I'll give you double. I'll give you 400. What are we going to do? Allah Maise. This is a Moedik Maise. I'm not sure you can apply it here.
Maybe nowadays, because what's going on.
Nowadays, because of what's going on.
People are more manic, as opposed to.
Are you a trained professional? Are you a guard? Why do I have to listen to you? And again, tomorrow you're going to tell me to take your shirt because you don't like it. You're afraid. So every single morning I'm taking my shirt off in the middle of the street.
He's afraid of his life.
True.
Nowadays, it's almost like you cook nevers to some extent.
So this guy, who apparently is very scared, he walks to the street and every 2 seconds going to point to someone else. You, your shirt. You, your pants. You. What's the end?
If it's
not going to happen.
In the case of there was a famous soldier, Lee or something, that was a mechabel on the floor with a coat and so on, and he felt there was something and he shot him.
Good. Does he have to pay?
Well, they put him in prison for a long time. No?
The guy who ripped the shirt, does he have to pay? Shulchan Aruch, Choshen Mishpat Siman Shin Pei, Seif Gimel. We learn what we said before, that if you run to save your friend, and on the way you break something, you don't have to pay. You're involved in saving lives. Ultimately here he didn't save a life, but he did save them. He saved them from a panic. Everybody was panicking. It's also a form of panicking, saving. Also a matter of atzala. More than that. Siman Tafrish Yud Ches in Shulchan Aruch Chaim we learn Dinah Yom Kippur. We're in Shul on Yom Kippur. A guy comes and says, "I really don't feel well. I think I should drink." There are no doctors here in the shul. We become the doctors. And we say, "Yeah, you're right. You don't feel well. You don't look good. You should drink." When there are no professionals around, we become the professionals. So when there is no armed security there, I don't know where he went. Maybe he went to eat. He went to join the same guy from before in the river. He went to eat the breakfast with the coffee, the lunch with the other guy. When there are no trained professionals around, we become the trained professionals. And the halacha recognizes it, that we have the authority to decide instead of the professionals. So here, these guys who were freaking out, the guy who ripped the shirt, in essence became the professional trained security guy who is supposed to say, "You cannot come in here unless you show us what you have under your shirt." So don't tell me I ripped your shirt. Ihu de azik anafshei. You ripped your own shirt. Why couldn't you cooperate? You know, these are special times. You know people are afraid. Why can't you say, "It's nothing, look, it's just my wallet. Look, there's no problem." Why couldn't you do it? So don't tell me that I ripped your shirt. You ripped your own shirt. More than that, you want me to apologize and to pay you? You have to ask mechila from everybody else that you caused us this scare, especially when you said, "Get out of here, get out, leave me alone, leave me alone." Why can't you cooperate? These are special times. So Mimele, he doesn't have to pay $1, but the only question left is, what's going to happen to this guy who ripped the shirt when he gets older? Will he benefit from the clothes? Will they warm him up? What am I talking about? Last week's Haftarah, David HaMelech becomes old and the clothes don't work for him. He was cold, so they put 15 layers and he's shivering. Why? Gemara in Brochos Samech Beis Amud Beis, Rashi brings it on the spot. Because he was mevazeh abgadim, his disgraced clothing. Mimele, you're not going to benefit from clothing mida keneged mida. What did David HaMelech do? When he was hiding in the cave, Shaul HaMelech, who was pursuing him, wanted to kill him, came over, and David HaMelech, was dark, couldn't see anything. He ripped a little piece of Shaul HaMelech's jacket, and when Shaul HaMelech left and he crossed over, David HaMelech came out of the cave and says, look, I could have killed you, and I didn't. So stop pursuing me, and he did. And it helped for 20 years. But ultimately, you ripped somebody's jacket. You're mevazeh abgadim. Mevazeh abgadim. Mevazeh abgadim pikuach nefesh hayla. Chazal say, you disgraced a garment, you're not going to be able to benefit from garments in the future. What about our guy? Will he benefit later on in life when he's cold and when he's old and cold? Will he benefit from the layers of clothing they're going to put on him?
Why did David rip it?
He wanted to show Shaul HaMelech, look, you could have killed me. I could have killed you, and I didn't. So stop pursuing me already. What's that?
Here he's trying to say.
So pikuach nefesh. I'm also trying to say pikuach nefesh.
He wasn't mevazeh the shirt here. He was mekadesh the shirt.
And the David HaMelech was mevazeh the shirt? It's pikuach nefesh. Why is it called bizui? What did David HaMelech do wrong? Comes Iyun Yaakov there in Brochos Samech Beis and writes a Chiddush. David, you could have settled for 10 centimeters. Why did you rip 15 centimeters? Why the extra 5 centimeters? The Ben Ish Chai is a nuamtza. Ben Yehoyada. He writes, David, fine, you want to rip a piece of his jacket? It's a great idea. Why dafka in the corner of the garment and you nullify this garment from the mitzvah of tzitzis? That's the bizui. Which is not exactly the language of the Gemara, mevazeh abgadim, not the mitzvah of tzitzis, but that's what the Ben Yehoyada wants to say. But anyways, Rabbi Nissim Kareli says these things apply to David HaMelech. He is viewed, Kosh Baruch Hu is medaktik with tzaddikim. Our guy, he wasn't mevazeh any beged. He tore it just to see what there is. He was trying to be mefakeach nefesh, to save Klal Yisrael. All the clothing in Mitzvah Hashem throughout his life will cover him and will warm him up. And in Mitzvah Hashem, we should only know that these shalos will be only la halacha. But all the Maaseh, I want to finish off with the tefillah that we did last week. Achenu gol beis Yisrael nisuim b'tzar u'v'shivya. Ha'oimdim ben bayam u'ben bayabasha ha'makom yirachem aleim. ויוצאים מצרו לרווח ומאפילו לאויה. ומשיבוד לגאולה, אשתו בעגלו בזמן קורי ונאמר אמן.